Pirates didn't just rule the seas with cannons and cutlasses. They ruled with something far more powerful: fear. Imagine you're a merchant sailor in the early 1700s. The horizon is calm, the ocean stretches endlessly, and suddenly, black sails rise from the mist. A skull and crossbones flutters in the wind. Your captain goes pale. The crew freezes. Why? Because every man knows that flag means terror is coming. But here's the twist. Pirates weren't always as bloodthirsty as the story suggests. In fact, their true genius wasn't endless slaughter. It was the ability to make their enemies surrender without even fighting. How? By carefully crafting an image of terror, an illusion so strong it broke the will of their enemies before a single cannon fired. They turned the art of psychological warfare into their deadliest weapon. In this documentary, we'll uncover how pirates engineered fear through their terrifying appearance and symbols, through legendary reputations that traveled faster than ships, through violent displays and psychological tricks, through dark rituals, myths, and ghostly legends, and even through the iron grip they kept on their own crews. So buckle up, because tonight you'll see how pirates transform fear into the most powerful weapon on the seas. Fear begins with what the eyes can see, and pirates knew this better than anyone. To a merchant sailor, the sight of a naval warship meant rules, discipline, and maybe negotiation. But the sight of a pirate ship meant chaos. These men weren't bound by kings or laws. Their very appearance screamed danger. Take the infamous Jolly Roger, the black flag with a skull and crossbones. It wasn't just decoration. It was a psychological weapon. The moment that flag went up, every sailor knew: surrender quickly or face torture, death, or worse. Some pirates even used variations, like a bleeding heart, an hourglass, or skeletons holding spears, symbols designed to tell their victims, your time is running out. Then there was the pirate's look. These men were not polished officers in crisp uniforms. They were wild, unshaven, covered in scars and tattoos. They wore bright, stolen coats from different nations, gold earrings that glinted in torchlight, and carried pistols strapped across their chests. They wanted to look unpredictable, almost inhuman, and no one mastered this art of appearance better than Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard. He tied slow-burning fuses into his beard and lit them before battle. Imagine facing a giant man, eyes blazing, smoke rising from his face like a demon out of hell. Many sailors dropped their weapons without a fight. Blackbeard didn't need to kill them. His look did the job. This was the secret. Pirates understood that if you could terrify a man's mind before battle, you didn't need to risk your own life in combat. And it all started with what they wore, the flags they flew, and the monstrous images they carved into memory. Fear doesn't just travel on the wind. It travels through stories. And in the golden age of piracy, reputation was worth more than gold. Pirates understood that if their names struck terror before they even arrived, half the battle was already won. News of their brutality spread like wildfire from port to port, carried by terrified survivors who had been spared to tell the tale. One of the best examples? Black Bart Roberts. He captured over 400 ships, but he wasn't remembered for endless slaughter. Instead, his reputation for ruthlessness, executing captains, burning ships, was enough to make merchant crews surrender the moment they spotted his flag. And then there was Blackbeard, the legend who could frighten sailors without even firing a shot. Survivors described him as a devil in human form. His name alone was whispered in taverns from the Caribbean to London. For many, the fear of Blackbeard was far worse than the man himself. But pirates didn't always rely on truth. They exaggerated. They cultivated myths. Some captains spread rumors that they were cannibals or that they left no survivors. These stories weren't just gossip. They were weapons, carefully planted to weaken enemy morale long before a battle began. It's the same tactic gangs and dictators have used throughout history. Build a reputation of terror, and people will surrender before the fight even starts. For pirates, their greatest weapon wasn't always the sword or cannon. It was the legend of their own name. Fear through reputation worked in the long run. But in the heat of battle, pirates needed something else: theater. And their stage was violence. Now, make no mistake, pirates were not always bloodthirsty butchers. In fact, slaughter was risky, too much killing, and nobody would surrender. But what they mastered was controlled brutality. They staged violence like actors performing for an audience. Sometimes pirates would fire cannons not at ships, but into the air just to make the earth shake and hearts pound. They staged mock executions, pretending to cut throats or throw prisoners overboard, only to stop at the last second. The message was clear: this could be you next. And when they did kill, they made sure the world remembered. Captains were sometimes hanged from the yardarm, their bodies left swaying in the wind for days as a warning. Victims were branded, whipped, or mutilated, acts less about cruelty and more about sending a terrifying postcard across the ocean. One French pirate, François l'Olonnais, was infamous for slicing open prisoners and licking the blood from his sword. an image so disturbing that survivors would spread the tale with trembling voices. The irony? Pirates didn't always have to be that violent. Just the possibility of violence, the uncertainty of whether you'd live or die, was often enough to make entire crews surrender without resistance. It was psychological warfare at its finest. The pirates wanted you to imagine the worst possible fate and then surrender to escape it. In many ways, this was centuries ahead of its time. Modern dictators, mob bosses, even street gangs use the same playbook. Showcase just enough brutality to make people afraid, but leave enough survivors to carry the legend forward. Not all fear comes from steel and blood. Some of the most powerful terror comes from the imagination. Pirates understood this, and they wove a cloak of myths, curses, and dark rituals around themselves to keep enemies trembling. For sailors in the 1700s, the sea was already full of superstition. Storms appeared out of nowhere, ships vanished without a trace, and ghost stories haunted every tavern. Pirates took these fears and turned them into weapons. Some flew flags with hourglasses, symbols of death's countdown. Others spread tales that they carried ancient curses, that their ships were haunted, or that they could not be killed. Imagine being a poor merchant sailor, already half believing in ghosts, and hearing that a pirate captain had sold his soul to the devil. Would you fight or surrender before such a man even stepped aboard? The image of the Flying Dutchman, a ghost ship doomed to sail forever, terrified sailors. Pirates sometimes used drifting abandoned ships or faked ghostly lights to fuel these legends. A crew might believe they had encountered the undead, when in truth it was clever pirate theater. Rituals played their part too. Some pirates staged mock sacrifices, painting their faces with blood or chanting before battle to unsettle their enemies. Others spread rumors of cannibalism, or that they carved the names of their victims into the timbers of their ships. It was fear beyond logic, fear of the unknown, fear of curses, fear of things you could not fight with a sword. And that was the genius of pirate mythology. While cannonballs could sink a ship, stories could sink a man's courage. And in the dark world of the seas, sometimes a story was deadlier than a cannon. Fear wasn't just a weapon pirates used against their enemies, it was also the glue that kept their own crews under control. Life aboard a pirate ship was brutal. Dozens of desperate men crammed into a wooden vessel, armed to the teeth, hungry for treasure. Without discipline, mutiny could break out at any moment. And so captains used fear, not just charisma, to rule. Many pirate codes, yes, written laws, contained harsh punishments. A thief caught stealing from the common plunder might be marooned, abandoned on a desert island with nothing but a pistol and a single shot, left to die slowly. Others faced the dreaded keel haul, dragged beneath the ship's barnacle-encrusted hull until their flesh was torn apart. Even small infractions could mean the whip, the noose, or a bullet. The message was clear. Loyalty was survival, betrayal was death. And yet pirate captains had to balance fear with fairness. Too much cruelty, and the crew would rise against them. Too little, and discipline would collapse. Blackbeard Roberts enforced strict rules but was respected. Blackbeard's smoldering fury kept his men in awe. Each leader became a master of psychological control, part dictator, part showman. Fear was also used in subtle ways. Captains staged punishments publicly, so the whole crew felt the weight of consequence. Rumors were planted about cursed deserters or men who vanished after breaking the code. Even whispers of supernatural retribution kept men in line. This inner fear ensured that pirate crews, though chaotic, could function like deadly machines. Without it, they would have destroyed themselves long before they ever terrified the seas. So what made pirates truly unstoppable? It wasn't just their cannons. It wasn't just their numbers. It was fear, through symbols like the skull and crossbones, through legends that spread across oceans, through staged violence, whispered curses, and ruthless discipline. Pirates built an empire of terror that no navy could match. Fear became their secret weapon, cheaper than gunpowder, more powerful than swords. A single flag could make 100 men surrender without a fight. A single story could freeze the heart of a sailor thousands of miles away. In the end, pirates weren't just warriors of the sea, they were psychological masterminds. They understood a truth that still echoes in our world today. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't steel, it's the human imagination. Think about it. Modern gangs, dictators, even powerful nations still use fear to control people. Intimidation, propaganda, displays of brutality. It's the same playbook the pirates wrote centuries ago. So next time you see a skull and crossbones, remember, it's more than just a symbol of rebellion. It's a reminder of how fear, carefully crafted, perfectly staged, can control the fate of empires. But here's the haunting question. If pirates could command the seas with nothing but fear, what new masters of terror might be ruling our world today, without us even realizing it?